For a whole month, I was sunk in the rabbit hole between will you come to my cottage this summer and have to use cloth to build something? So much so that when I opened an actual paper book, I felt so randomly weird like, oh wait, the books are still there, unchanged and untouchable. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. During the 1.5 months that I disappeared, I did two things. I think they're equally important. I successfully joined the heated rivalry party, much too late, I know, and I enjoyed it tremendously. I've watched the show like 5 times already. I forced all my friends to watch them and quiz them. And I have developed an app for single girls to keep themselves safe. After I say it out, I realize how random these two things sound like put together. But if you have been watching this channel, you would know that I always consider myself, I don't know, a book nerd, a literature person who prefers paper book than ebook as always, someone who wrote in their journals, that sort of person. So for someone who did not know what terminal was until like 2 months ago, this whole thing was a roller coaster experience. In morning, I learned to use Claude, building a website and an app. At night, I crazily read about heated rivalry novels and scroll all the Instagrams that everyone had been watched multiple times. The app is now officially launched in iOS market. It's a safety check-in tool called Save the Date for any female users who wants to leave a message before they go out, go on a date, go for a run, and to send an alarm email if they didn't check in. It was a small experience. I have no intention to discuss it further. I have zero expectation of this. I do not think I will suddenly become the master of AI because of this. But this whole experience of me stepping out of my comfort zone to do something with the help of technology, it gave me an inspiration of the book we are talking about today. I read this book maybe after Chinese New Year, so like 2 months ago. This whole thing with the AI and fast-changing technology world, open claw and everything, in a time that everything seems so shaken and unstable, this book hooked me back to the ground, and I had a lot of thinking about what beauty truly means, especially in our time. The book's name is Umberto Eco, History of Beauty. In an age where AI can generate images, faces, and entire authentic words with seconds, with a few lines of words, it can build almost anything. It becomes tempting to believe that beauty has been democratized, liberated from history, and made universally accessible. Now everyone, almost everyone, with the help of technology tool can make something beautiful, Instagram authentic. But this illusion is precisely why this book matters more now than ever. And I have bought this book for, frankly, like 20 years, I think. I have never had the urge to read it until about 2 months ago. I found this on my bookshelf. And I feel like in a time that we deal with ChatGPT, Claude, every possible AI tools out there on a daily basis, I want something traditional, historical to pull me back to the actual ground of human beings in a very chaotic time like this. What he offers here, so let's begin our usual evaluation of the book. This book is written in a chronological order. Every time period, you will get photos of paintings and portraits served with poets, fictions, articles, and historical evidence. It discusses what beauty is within different time frames. And I think what he offers here is not just a timeline of In Renaissance world, this is considered beautiful. In medieval time, this is considered beautiful. He has a fundamental dismantling of the idea that beauty is natural, is stable, or self-evident. Yes, he showed how beauty is and beauty standards is always constructed by philosophy, by power, by money, by religion, and by the dominant narrative of each area. But it is exactly that historical awareness that is at risk of disappearing in the age of AI. The book did not, because the book was written a long time ago, the book did not get deep into technology and how it shaped people. In the last chapter, it talked a little bit about pop culture and the acting of purchases, consumers, how they affect public opinions about beauty, but it did not go any further. Though I think it's actually a better way to put it, because the time we're in now changes way too fast, and by looking back of all the time before us, it gave us a more clear structure of how we developed the standard of beauty throughout time. In this book, Echo, as amazingly as he always was, this is the second book I read of Echo, I think. The first one is naturally The Name of the Roses. In this book, that I also gain fun and enjoyment of reading, even though it's not a novel, because he put out that through centuries, what counted as beautiful shifted dramatically, but never randomly. And he detailed the process of evaluation. The ancient Greeks saw beauty in proportion and harmony through mathematical order. He talks briefly about this. Through mathematical order into the human body, and how the philosophy and math helped shaped this standard of beauty. The Middle Age thought about beauty as in something that divine, where light and transcendence became a authentic trend. And the Renaissance time naturally returned beauty to the human form through a very intellectual ways and anatomy, and a discussion of what being a human truly means. And beauty was throughout all this transformation. The idea of beauty was never just authentic, but ideological. And beauty was never just about appearance or women or the body, female body, or anyone's body. It was about how a culture understood truth, morality, and existence itself. But after we've discussed it, that those time period, and if we shift our vision back to now, AI disrupted this lineage. It does not participate in these philosophy debates. It does not raise questions about what does it mean to be beautiful in a time like this. On the contrary, I think it compresses them. What we now encountered in a AI-generated image is not a continuation of authentic history. It's algorithm, it's data, it's statistics. Beauty now becomes whatever appears to be most frequently showing up in training data, the highest likes, the highest engagements, whatever in aligns with dominant visual patterns, whether it's the face of Kim Kardashian or Instagram trends or TikTok trends. I also think this is why I think if Echo continued to write about this book now, it would be extremely interesting to see how he dissect these internet topics, what he would think about AI generated pictures and videos, because in this sense, AI did not create anything that's truly meaningful and beautiful. It standardized what people now think are beautiful. In the same time, our relationship with beauty is quietly changing. Echo's project requires interpretation. It asks the reader to understand why something was considered beautiful at the time. Maybe he will show him a painting, and then he will show him a clip from a poet or from a book to discuss what emotions people put on within these objects, these paintings. Even if sometimes that those paintings or concepts or seem unsettling or strange or complete opposite of what we're having today. He did it through a full analysis of all the media forms there was at that time. It demands effort, context, intellectual engagement, power, resources. But digital platforms powered by AI now do not reward understanding. You do not have to understand what is behind the meaning of this type of beauty. What they reward is reaction. Me or you as the user is no longer asked to think about, to interpret beauty in your own way. What we're asked to do is taking part in participating. Authentic experience is reduced to a binary loop of liking or don't liking, scroll away. When you stand in front of a truly magnificent painting, your first reaction was take a photo and post it, and then you leave. It's really hard to sit down with it and patiently experience it. And you certainly would not do that when you see a beautiful photo on Instagram or TikTok. And this trend also intensified the modernization of beauty standard is also intensified by the collapse of authority. For most of the time in human history, as shown in this book, beauty is rare. It's whatever, it's a painting, a sculpture, a cathedral, a building. They were all individual objects. They were made through time. It takes a lot of effort, requiring labor, money, skill, immense resources, and the belief in something higher than us. This rarity contribute to the power that they hold with the beauty they show. But today, you can generate anything powered by AI within seconds. Beauty becomes abundant, and when beauty is everywhere, it becomes difficult to feel it at all. What was once an encounter becomes a background condition. What we are experiencing now is more ordinary than extraordinary. Also, when I read in this book that how people used to react to something divine and beautiful, we don't have that strong reaction anymore. I'm speaking purely for myself personally here. My ability to understand and looking through an art is largely shaped by my phone, notification button, internet, and everything. Everything now happens so quick, instantly. But sometimes I think it would be wiser to just slow down and take a minute to enjoy the truly beautiful and meaningful things that happen outside the world of technology. I think the book it didn't put in his text, but as a reader in current world, the book raised a subtle and dangerous transformation, the trend of transformation, that it tried to warn us that in modern days, nothing is neutral anymore. Echo makes it very clear in this book that beauty has always been entangled with system of power, religious belief. Medieval beauty served theology. Renaissance beauty reflected humanism. But modern history showed that authentic ideas can be mobilized or changed or shaped for ideological control. It always has been like that, but with the help of technology tools, it becomes easier and quicker to do. He pointed out that throughout the human history, beauty was never innocent. It always carries assumptions about what is desirable, what is normal, what is worthy of attention. But the scope of this is enlarged by AI tremendously now. Because through algorithm AI generated tools, ChatGPT, whatever AI tools that we have now, the data is trained on anything but neutral. It has biases, exclusions, dominant cultural preferences. It showed something that's not neutral. This is why, for me, reading this book, History of Beauty, is a realistic kick-in about what I am doing and what is happening around the world. It reminds us that beauty and what we define as beauty was never simply a personal taste. Without these awarenesses, we ignore the fact that beauty and beauty standard is always the result of a historical force acting upon us. And without this awareness, we are a very passive recipients of algorithm output and everything. With the influence of AI, everything, after a while, everything became plain and not as emotionally challenging because there was no emotion in it. Because deep down, humanity has spent thousands of years arguing what beauty is, and those arguments were never resolved because they were never meant to be resolved. They were a reflection of our understanding of the world, of ourselves, what we are as human beings, what's death and what's life. That's why reading this book, first, it's very educational because it showed a time frame of beauty throughout the human history, which is very fun to read about. You can see how people used to torture themselves to fit the standard of beauty. By that meaning, we have never changed, like, at all in the history of human being. But it has it acts as a reminder to me that yes, AI is wonderful. Yes, AI can solve a lot of your problems and make you much more productive. But I think this book wants to let us re-enter a unfinished conversation that lasts hundreds, thousands of years, to remember that beauty is not something delivered to us, but it's something that we questioned, challenged, negotiated, redefined, searched, investigated for, something to permanently pursue. And in a time that when algorithm increasingly shaped us, what we see, what we feel, what we do every day, that I think that might be one of the most important thing that my take on this book and the last piece of freedom that we have. And frankly, after like 12 hours of sitting with Claude and Claude Code, going back home and turn on the pages of a book and read about medieval paintings and the romantic poets, it's very refreshing. It made me remember why I love this world and why I love reading. So I once read a very interesting investigation saying Gen Z hate internet, they prefer paper book because internet and the content on internet can be changed in a second. But the printed books, the paper books, once it's done printing, it's always there. I have never had that strong feeling of this sentence until this month. I feel like there is something that AI cannot change and cannot touch. And realizing that makes me a little bit relieved. And that's all for today's video. See you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.